Lads, welcome back to Fusion YGO. Something I've seen a lot of, but not enough people addressing, is the returning players to the game. For some of you who are returning to the game, it can seem like an insurmountable obstacle to get through. So today, I am going to do my best to describe the basic applications of the mechanics added over the years. This is a resource for all returning players, so if you have any specific mechanic questions, check the description for timestamps. Lads, before we begin, I want to spotlight another small Yugi-tuber in the community. Hey Bud is a Yugi-tuber that has just returned to the game recently, within the past couple of months, and has had to experience the growing pains of YouTube on top of Tier 0 virus format. So if you like returning players to the game and their vlog styles, check out Hey Bud. His videos are very crisp and very fun to watch. Very nice guy. Go ahead and check him out. Link to his channel will be in the description. But now, on with the video. The field. The playing field has changed a bit since the game's inception. Now, you will notice in the middle, two new monster zones. These are the extra monster zones. You may only summon monsters from the extra deck to these zones. Some mechanics require it, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Other changes include both players' field zones, may now have an active field spell during the game. You'll also notice that the odd color and gem symbol in the spell and trap card zone. I promise that will also be covered a little later on. For now, that's the gist of it. I'm going to go through these changes one by one, in order of release, starting with Synchro. What? In 2008, Yu-Gi-Oh! Introduced its second extra deck summoning mechanic, Synchro Summoning. And with this, brought two new types of card. The first are the silver cards you see some people playing today. The second is more of a subtype, called a tuner, indicated next to the monster type. Synchro Summoning is very similar to Fusion Summoning. To make a Synchro monster, you need to meet the following criteria. First, the material. Just like Fusion Summoning, the card has a recipe. Underneath the type, etc., explaining. So underneath here, it's one tuner and one non-tuner monster is the recipe right there. Second, the levels have to match perfectly. So, for F.A. Don Dragster, which is a level 7, you need two numbers that match up to level 7 in total that do not exceed the level of the monster you're trying to summon. So for a level 7, it has to meet level 7, it can't be less or more. And third, you can only Synchro Summon using monsters on the field, which are then sent to the graveyard. You Synchro Summon using a tuner monster, and the monster you have to match the level of the monster you were trying to summon. So, for an example, F.A. Don Dragster is a level 7 Synchro monster. It just requires one tuner and one non-tuner monster. So for this example, we have Jet Synchron on the field with Goki Bear Hug, a level 6 monster. So, Jet Synchron is a level 1 with Goki Bear Hug level 6. You send these two to the graveyard, and you create F.A. Don Dragster on the field. And that's Synchro Summoning in a nutshell. Now, let's move on to the next summoning mechanic. Exceed Summon. In 2011, the third type of extra deck summoning was introduced in Exceed Summoning. Exceeds monsters are distinguished as being the black cards with the level on the wrong side. So first, Exceeds monsters do not have a level, but a rank. Its rank is on the opposite side of the levels. To summon an Exceeds monster, you must overlay the required recipe as material under the Exceeds monster. The cards used are no longer considered to be on the field, so sent from field effects won't trigger. The recipe for summoning is in the same location as Fusion and Synchro monsters. You may only overlay cards that are on the field. You can't Exceed Summon from the hand. So, for the basics of a Exceeds Summon, we have number 39, Utopia here. Utopia requires two level 4 monsters. So, in this example, we have Neo Space Connector and Goki Suprex. Yes, there's a lot of warriors going on in this video today. And Goki Suprex and Neo Space Connector, to overlay them, you'll simply place one over the other, and then place your Exceeds monster on top of it. Most Exceeds monsters require for their effects to activate the detaching of a material, meaning you have a limited number of times you can use their effects. But detaching, it just sends it to the graveyard. It is no longer on the field, so that does not trigger any effects that Suprex might have, as an example, and you're able to use their effects that way, typically. And that's it for Exceed summoning. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple, similar to Synchro summoning in some respects, but overall, very, very different. Now let's move on to the next one. Pendulum! In 2014, the most powerful, in my opinion, summoning mechanic was introduced to the game. Pendulum monsters can be summoned and used like regular monsters out of the hand. However, they can also activate in the far right and far left spell and trap card zones, also known as the Pendulum scales. So, a demonstration of what that looks like. These are the Pendulum scales we talked about at the beginning of the video. You can activate them in either scale, like so. In the Pendulum scales, they are similar to a continuous spell. The number in the box with a gem is its Pendulum scale. When a Pendulum card leaves the field, it checks the graveyard and moves to the extra deck face up. The Pendulum scales indicate the level range that you are able to Pendulum summon from your hand and face up extra deck. So if you have a scale 1 and a scale 8, you are able to Pendulum summon monsters level 2 through 7 from your hand and face up extra deck. When summoning from the face up extra deck, there are 2 locations that you are able to summon to. The first is the extra monster zone. Doing this limits you to Pendulum summoning only 1 monster from your face up extra deck. The second method we will discuss a little later. You may only Pendulum summon once per turn. Pendulum summoning from the hand can be done to any main monster zone. Link summoning. In 2017, the newest summoning mechanic was introduced, Link summoning. Link summoning is similar in a lot of ways to Synchro summoning. The recipe is in the same location. Link monsters may only be summoned to the extra monster zone, or to a zone a Link monster already points to. The Link arrows that you see all around the border of the card are filled in with red to indicate where you have open an area you can special summon another Link monster or a face-up Pendulum monster from the extra deck. The number of monsters required to Link summon is indicated in the bottom right of the card, where the defense would normally be, called Link rating. You may also treat Link monsters as their Link rating when used to summon another Link monster. So if you have 2 monsters with a Link rating of 2, you can use both of them as a requirement to summon a Link 4, as long as they meet the summoning requirements in the recipe, and that you don't exceed the new monster's Link rating. You can also use them to make a Link 3 by using one as its Link rating of 2, and the other as 1 monster totaling in 3. So, we're going to move these out of the way real quick. To make a Link 1, like Link Karibo here, all you need to do is send a level 1 monster on the field to the graveyard as the summoning requirement, and then you can summon Link Karibo to the extra monster zone. This opens the zone directly underneath Link Karibo. So, let's show that in a demonstration a little bit more clearly. So, Jet Synchron's on your field. You move it here. You have to summon Link Karibo up in, let's put it here so you can see it, and that opens up this zone specifically so you can special summon monsters from the extra deck too. We'll move Link Karibo down a little bit so you can continue seeing it. Okay, to demonstrate a Link 3 and a basic Link 4. Alright, so we have Link 1, Link Karibo, and Link 2, Nightmare Phoenix. In order to make Nightmare Unicorn a Link 3 monster, you have to use 2+ monsters with different names. So, in order to summon Nightmare Phoenix, we can use Link Karibo as its Link rating of 1, and Nightmare Phoenix as its Link rating of 2 to make Nightmare Unicorn, I'm sorry. However, if you have, let's say, Jet Synchron on the field with Link Haribo and Nightmare Phoenix, if you want to use Nightmare Phoenix as its Link rating of Link 2, then you'll have to use Jet Synchron and Nightmare Phoenix. You can't add Link Haribo to it. But if you want to treat Nightmare Phoenix as one, you can link off all three of them for Nightmare Phoenix, because you can still treat this Link 2 as one Link monster. Now, let's go on to something like Borrelsword Dragon. Borrelsword Dragon is a Link 4 monster. So, for some players that are returning to the game, if I told you you cannot use Link Haribo and Nightmare Unicorn alone to make Borrelsword Dragon, you'd probably look at me very confused. The reason being is that Borrelsword Dragon requires 3+ effect monsters in its recipe, and you have to total in 4. You get the total in 4 out of these two, but you do not get the minimum of 3 monsters required. You also could not use Jet Synchron and these two to make it, because in order to use Nightmare Unicorn, you have to treat it as a 1. That's only 3 monsters. However, if you change that out and you have a Nightmare Phoenix on the field, like so, you'd be able to use all of them because Nightmare Phoenix is Link 2, Nightmare Unicorn is a 1, and Link Haribo is a 1 to summon Borrelsword Dragon. So, you cannot exceed the Link rating, you have to follow the recipe, and finally, and most importantly, they open up the zones. If you have a monster, for example, like Borrelsword Dragon here, this opens up the zones here and here. It would open up what's to the left, but that doesn't matter in this instance, and Borrelsword has an arrow that points up. Let's say you summon Nightmare Phoenix here. Notice how it points up. Where it points up to does not open it on your opponent's side of the field in this instance, because this is not considered part of the game area. This is blank space that does not connect anymore because of the extra monster zone. So this points to nothing to the north, and to the right, to the up. And to the right, it points here, so you're able to summon here. I picked some of the more basic ones to try and give you guys a nice little, a basic understanding. And that's the basics of Link summoning. And that is the basics of everything you may have missed since leaving. Obviously, there are going to be exceptions to the rules and cards that do things different, but for games in general, this is how each mechanic works. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, consider leaving a like. Subscribe for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, including how to Yu-Gi-Oh!, deck profiles, podcasts, and all the rest. At 250 subscribers, we will be doing a giveaway. But until next time, lads, good fun, have luck.